Good morning, hockey fans. It is a great playoff day. You got 4 games on the schedule, starting at 1, or I guess 2 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Central time. You got the Canes and Isles to start the day, and then I believe it goes to
Florida, Tampa.
Florida, Tampa, and then Boston, Toronto. And then you finish off the day with Dallas and Vegas. Guys, what's your thoughts on the playoffs so far? We'll start with Jerry.
So you look at, I feel like the East has been pretty, minus Boston, Toronto, the East has been pretty chalky. I will say Florida, I stand corrected when I said that Tampa Bay was going to upset Florida. I really thought Tampa was going to come out with a lot more fire. I don't know if it's necessarily Florida. I guess Florida is that good because we saw it in that overtime game. Tampa's not playing bad. They just kind of like a Lakers-Nuggets situation where you're just running into a juggernaut at the wrong time. The Lightning plays any other team, you're probably going to walk out on top. Isles are dead. Send them home. I can't speak for the Rangers, Capitals because I don't want to get ahead of myself. The broom is in the closet waiting to be picked up, but I don't want to jinx anything because we're looking pretty good. Yeah. And then the Leafs Bruins is a dogfight here in the East. I'm a big fan of that series. I would love to see that go 7. That's some hard-nosed Original 6 hockey. Then you go over to the West Coast. The West Coast, I think, is looking pretty good here. Vancouver, Nashville's turning into a pretty solid matchup there. They the Predators stole 1, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the only one they get, but I think they're playing the Canucks pretty well. Yeah, keeping it within range. The Winnipeg, look out for Winnipeg Abs. I think that series is definitely going to go 7. I think that's a tremendous series. I think it's going to be a hard-fought series. I think it's going to be a lot of back-and-forth hockey, especially if they win, because now it's 2-1, right?
2-1 Colorado.
So we'll see what happens with that one, depending on who wins Game 5 right there. I think might be the biggest difference maker. And then Dallas is kind of laying an egg here.
Yeah, Dallas does not look good at all. They looked rough. They look like they're getting thrown around by the Golden Knights. Even though the scores have been close.
Injury reserve.
The Vegas is it LI long term.
The Vegas ambulance squad.
The LTIRs. I love that.
Yeah. James, what do you think of the first round so far?
Yeah, you know what? It's been really exciting. I mean, I do hate the fact the Blues aren't in it, but playoff hockey is playoff hockey. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
I agree with Joe. The Islanders they're not there.
Dead.
They don't
deader than dead.
They're dead. They're dead. 100%. And the Stars too. Like I would have to say that, once the first round ends, if they're eliminated, I'll be like, that's my shock. That's my surprise. I can't believe that they're out of the. Not saying that the Golden Knights aren't a good team. I mean, they won the Cup last year. They're a dominant team. But just to see how bad the Stars are playing shocks me. Otherwise, I'm actually kind of par for the course for everything. I didn't expect the Lightning to do a lot. I've loved the Toronto-Boston series. That's my favorite one because that is, I don't know if any of those two will make it out of the second round, but this first round is pretty exciting for them. So yeah, I love it. Hockey's hockey, baby. I love it.
Can't beat it.
No, you can't. The one surprise for me so far has definitely been Dallas. The way they've kind of fluttered around with things so far has definitely been kind of like an eye opener. Like, man, maybe this Dallas team isn't as good as we thought. They're just not playing good hockey, or
I think the Knights are that good.
I just about to say, I think the Vegas Golden Knights are just that good.
I think
and that they're healthy and they're at the right.
I think it's
spot.
both. I really think it's both.
Yeah. Brandon, what's your quick thoughts on things on the round 1? Can you not hear me?
Beaten, but the Dallas and Vegas series has been kind of a shocker to me. I didn't think it was going to be going the course that it was going at the moment. Yeah. But I mean, when you have somebody go on LTIR for who knows how long, and you have $9.5 million to kind of spare to go look at other players, and then he comes back at conveniently the right time every time. I mean, yeah, you're going to be stacked for whenever the playoffs come around, but kind of what Jerry was talking about with the East, it's kind of stacked. I mean, you got Panthers leading in 3, Carolina leading in 3, New York leading in 3. So I mean, it's you got a lot of possible sweeps looking in the first round. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think we could possibly. I think we'll see 2 of those today. I'm not gonna jump the gun on 2 of them already, but I'd imagine the way the Carolina Islanders game ended the other night. I think that was like the kind of like knife in the back for the Islanders, unfortunately. And it might not be at the same time. It could be that little spark that they needed to, I don't know, maybe play well. So we'll start with that series since it's the first game today, and we'll talk about the Islanders Canes for a little bit. The Stanley Cup logo was supposed to be in there a little bit longer. I don't know why it disappeared so quickly.
Still dope.
Yeah, that's cool. That was cool.
So the Canes and Islanders, that series, or the game the other night, and it actually caught. We were actually on still for the end of it the other night. We were sitting here and we were all like, "Oh, like the Islanders got this one wrapped up." It was 3-2. There was like 3 or 4 minutes left in the hockey game, and we did our hockey fight night thing. And we come back, and the Carolina Hurricanes were up 5-3.
Yeah, they took it back and won. That was crazy.
5-2, something like that. Something
That's
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had those 3
5-3.
quick unanswered goals. What surprised you about that, Jerry?
Absolutely nothing. The Islanders are going to be the Islanders in the third period. We saw it in the Stadium Series. We've seen it throughout the entire course of the season. You know, you don't lose 16 games in overtime by accident. This is just kind of, for whatever reason, they feel the need to take their foot off the gas pedal in the third period, where you should be stepping on it and putting it to the floor. One thing I want to note about this series, my hatred for the New York Islanders is pretty well documented throughout all my shows and all my socials and all my life. Yeah. And the fact that this team failed to sell out a playoff game in their home arena, number one, is abysmal. And I get it. You know, there's some diamond seat BS going on in the lower bowl that makes the arena look empty, and it's not really the case. And all the true fans are upstairs and blah, blah, blah. But the fact that playoff tickets are going for, I believe I saw them on sale at face value, primary market, for like $110. That's a dream. And maybe it's just because I'm a jaded New York Rangers fan where I have to deal with corporate America and just whatever, and tickets start at $250, but that's neither here nor there. But come on, show up for your team, go to your own building. Yeah. You wondered why. You sat here and cried when they left you from the Nassau Coliseum. You cried your eyes out because you pretended you cared. You didn't. It's the same thing. And they're going to leave Elmont, and they're probably going to go to, I don't know, next thing you know, they're going to be in Utah or Kansas City or wherever they're going to go. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, with this series that nobody's really talking about, the Canes finished the season 4 or 5 points behind the New York Rangers, who was a President's Trophy winning team. You're basically playing a 1 seed here, and that's what no one's really given the Hurricanes credit for. And granted, I'm personally overlooking the Hurricanes as a Rangers fan. Again, looking ahead, don't want to jinx myself, whatever. But we can kind of call it like we see it right now. I look ahead and I discount the Hurricanes because we have their number for whatever reason. It's going to be a hard-fought series, but we have the Hurricanes number we've always had. So I'm confident in that. But you are playing what could have been a number 1 seed, and up until like the second to last game of the season, almost won the Metro. So like I feel like a lot of people went into the series not respecting the Hurricanes for as good as a team as they really are.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the way the series has been so far. You saw the only thing that surprised me so far, and we talked about it on the last show, is how slow they started in game 1, and they did not look good. The Carolina Hurricanes did not look good in game 1.
No.
Outside of the third period. Other than that, they've been almost, except for the second or first and second period of game 3, almost lights out.
I mean, that's what you can play the Islanders for 20 minutes and still win. That's kind of how it goes. You could sleepwalk through the first 2 periods and be okay, and then just step on the gas in the third period when they take their foot off the pedal, and you'll still win the game.
Yeah. So it sounds like I think it was Varlamov. I think he said Varlamov's going to be. Patrick Ross said Varlamov's going to be in goal.
Really?
For today's game.
Varlamov is in.
James, what do you what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's the right move?
I think right now, Patrick Roy is just looking for some type of spark, and I think he feels that Varlamov's the answer to that. It's always that relying on who you think is your best goalie, your hot goalie, and take them into this. And that is that's a ride or die thought process for a coach in the playoffs. You see in some the Boston series is really the one that shows you like it doesn't matter, they're just rotating. But in this case, you get he's going to go with Varlamov and see what happens. But he has not played his game. He's usually better than this, and he's not. And like Jerry said, this Islanders team is just they're not trying, they're not pushing, and. I think he's just. I think Wall's trying to find something in that coaching bag of tricks to at least squeak something out to get a win today. But I just don't see it happen. This Hurricanes team is a prototypical playoff built team where they can win when they're losing, they win, and they dominate when they win, and every player is stepping up to this. So yeah, and I don't have any bets on who's going where, but. If there is a point where we're going to see a Rangers Hurricanes series, like duck and cover, because that's going to be one hell of a game.
It's going to be a good series.
It'll be a great series. So looking at this one, the Isles. I mean, what's the positive side of things for the Carolina Hurricanes is that they were able to get, which they struggled last year with this, is that they were able to get wins on the road.
Yeah.
Brandon, how important is it for the Hurricanes to kind of move past that? It's been a playoff struggle for them the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously with the circumstances of today's games, it's huge. I mean, if they can come out and take the game in New York, then they're pretty much going to be taking the series. So I mean, it's whether or not do you want to play again on. I think if they win today, it would be Monday that they play again. So it's a question of whether or not they play again on Monday or not, or they're waiting, sitting around until the second round starts.
So it would be Tuesday.
It's pretty huge. Oh, Tuesday?
We wouldn't play again until Tuesday.
There's weird breaks. I think it's when you switch arenas, you get a 3-day break instead of like the every other, or a 2-day break rather.
It probably would be because they probably would be playing in Carolina on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think they get a 2-day break in between, like switching.
How important is it, Jerry, with you being the Rangers guy, that the Carolina Hurricanes get that extra day if they win today to finish out the series? How important is that for them?
I mean, honestly, at this rate, I don't think it matters. Playoff hockey is just playoff hockey is playoff hockey. Everyone's going to be hurt. Everyone's going to be bruised.
Yeah.
The rest is obviously nice, but at the end of the day, you're still throwing everything. You're pushing your body to the absolute limits one way or the other. So I'm sure it'll help, but you got to keep in mind the Islanders are also going to have that extra day, so it's not going to make the world a difference. But I can definitely see a gentleman's sweep here, and the Canes looking to close one out at home. That would make a lot of sense. They wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't say they would lose on purpose, but it wouldn't shock me if they walk out in 5.
Yeah. So give me a quick game winner today, Brandon. Go ahead.
Go Carolina.
Okay, James.
Canes.
Jerry.
Give me the Islanders in overtime. Give them one.
Of course, yeah. They have the most playoff.
You guys have one in closing.
Yeah, they have the most playoff wins in Stanley Cup playoff history in overtime.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Cliche for the New York Islanders this year.
Yeah.
So
write that down for fight night.
Yeah.
And don't forget, 40 years ago, they won 4 cups in a row. So,
Yeah, and no one will ever let you forget about that.
No.
Right?
Get out of here.
Right.
All right,
0
let's
cups
move on.
since the Soviet Union has fallen.
Yeah. Move on to this next series, which has been a very interesting one so far. A good one, but a lot of goalie controversy on the Boston side. Now, this one is just got my mind boggled. Is that they keep going back and forth with these two goaltenders between Swayman and
Allmark.
Hallmark.
Hallmark.
Even though the one loss that the Boston Bruins have had so far in this series has been with Allmark and goalie, and Jeremy Swayman has just been solid.
Lights out.
Absolutely
100%.
solid. James,
100%.
why do you think they keep going back and forth with these goalies?
You got me on this. Like in all the playoff hockey I've seen, I've never seen anything like this unless one goalie is not playing well. But Swayman has been lights out, like you said, better than Allmark. Allmark, it's not that he had a bad game in that loss against Toronto. It just wasn't, the game that they needed. They should have taken game 2 in Boston, and then they go into Toronto with up 2-0, and now it's a 2-1 series, which is fine, but it's hard to say. If they go with Allmark again and they lose again, like Montgomery's gonna have to answer to that. Like to me, that's an issue. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And not saying that Allmark is a bad goalie, but it's all momentum. It's all about the skill of the players. And if they walk in here and they know that, all right, Swayman's our guy, let's see what happens, and we can ride or die with him and go. But it's different with the Islanders where Varlamov was not good so far against the Hurricanes, and they're riding him. This is different. So I really don't agree with Montgomery's decision here. But I'm not behind the bench. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See, the one thing is that this is how this tandem operates. They don't have a clear-cut number one. They have a 1A and they have a 1B. So I see where they're coming from with the switch off. But obviously, when you're in the playoffs, you want to ride the hot hand. And Swayman is the hot hand right now. But you have to think that Allmark, one game is one game. I get it in the playoffs. Like, you kind of just got to ride with what you can. But I can fully expect an Allmark bounce back right here. I can't see why it wouldn't happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins take this game. But the thing is, though, like, this is just kind of how they operate, where they just switch in and switch out. They're both of the same ability. This is how this goalie tandem has been advertised for a pretty long time. I'm surprised, still very surprised they didn't break it up at the deadline. I really thought they were going to ship one out and then just leave, have a clear-cut starter. But the fact that they didn't shows that they have full faith in the tandem, and they're just going to keep going back and forth. And the good thing is now, you also, like, with the 1A, 1B situation, you have a fallback plan. You don't have to sit there on bated breath waiting for, like, take the Avs, for example, which we'll get into, I guess, later. But, one of the guys I work with is an Avalanche fan, and he texted me. He's like, dude, when does Georgiev get good? Like, what's the deal here? You don't have to sit there and wait for your one, if he starts cold with your starter, and then wait for him to really find his groove and be okay, but there's always a chance that he doesn't. When you have this goalie tandem, you can just be like, all right, it wasn't working for him tonight. All right, Swayman, you're going tomorrow. Swayman comes in, lights out. Okay, Allmark, you're going tomorrow. Get back. Let's get another one. Come on. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a really interesting dynamic that you don't see very often, that I think is beneficial to the mindset of the goaltender here, because you could just kind of wipe the slate clean after one bad game, knowing you'll have another chance, more than likely.
Yeah, you see that more and more, and you don't want to compare it to, like, the running back committees of the NFL.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, that's basically what it is. Like, you got two really good guys that are playing really, really good hockey. Right. In the net. But at the same time, it is the playoffs, and every game matters. And if you got a guy who's 2-0, you got it. And the other one is 0-1, and would look kind of out of sync with things a little bit. Maybe that's just because of the way they do things. I don't know. But I feel like at this point, like we talk with about the Blues at the end of the season, you got to go with your hot goal. You got to go with the guy who has a hot hand, who's making the saves and getting you the wins when you need them. Now's the time when you need those wins.
Yeah.
Brandon, what's your thoughts on things? It looks like William Nylander practiced full for I guess yesterday or today, but there's still a big question mark whether or not he's going to play tonight or play this afternoon. So what do you think on Nylander?
He's still listed. Nylander's still listed as day to day, but I don't know. From everything I saw, that it looked like Swayman was expected to start, but I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to go. But I mean, if they're slating him to be starting today, then I mean and he's been pretty hot for the team so far. So I mean, they have a pretty. I would say if he's in net, they have a fairly decently good chance of taking this game. On the other side of it all, Samsonov hasn't really been all that great. He's got an 890 save percentage in the playoffs right now, and he tend to be struggling as he's been playing for the Maple Leafs. But I think if they come out and lose today, aren't they switching to Boston?
They'll go back to Boston, which means Boston would win both games in Toronto.
Yeah, so that would be pretty hard to come back, I think, for Toronto. So I think in case you were going to be asking later, if you're Toronto, this is a very important game, I would say, to win, because you don't want to go into Boston with a 3-1 series record.
Yeah, you're not walking out alive.
Nope.
You're not. And like we asked last week, and I'll ask you this question, Jerry, since you're here with us this week, is if Toronto loses this series, I can ask James too, does Sheldon Keefe get fired?
I hate that that's the norm, because it's not his fault.
No, I know. Yeah.
There's nothing he can do. But I don't know if he necessarily gets fired, but he's on the hot seat. I think you might see him start the season, but if they go on a skid in like December pre-All-Star break, or I guess next year, no, next year's not an Olympic break. If you see him go on a skid pre-All-Star break next year, then I think it's really all right, he's out of here. It's kind of like Montreal and Toronto, those two, kind of like New York in a sense, in any other sport besides hockey, where the media cares so much, the pressure is always going to be on. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be an off-season kind of partying away. I could be really wrong, though.
Yeah. James, what do you think? Do you think he'll be let go?
I really kind of do. I think they're at a point now where, there's so much money invested in this team, and it's a constant struggle. They don't not even getting out of the first round or anything like that. So you go through those issues, and I think he's one of the first to go, and I think there's going to be some transaction changes. My opinion, I'm looking at Blues. I'm looking at former Blues coach Craig Berube to fill into that slot for Toronto. Just my opinion. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Sheldon Keefe comes here. Who knows? But
yeah,
it could be interesting. This all season will get interesting for Toronto if they lose this series.
That would be rather interesting to see.
Right.
I don't know how Blues fans would react to that. I don't know if they'd be. I mean, you have to have some joy at the same time. But again, I'm still on the whole Drew Bannister stays.
I don't have an issue with it. I've texted my opinions on this, but
I know. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Do you think the Bruins wrap or at least get a win today to go back home at 3-1, Jerry?
I think Toronto's going to come out firing. I would like to see them tie up the series just so it stays. There's some pretty good hockey being played here. Yeah. But it's going to be tough. We'll see what happens, though. My faith is in Allmark. I think he comes out guns blazing, ready to go. But I'd be damned if I think Toronto's going to drop both at home.
Yeah. Brandon, what do you think?
For the game today or the series?
Yeah, the game today. 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock start.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm still going to go with Boston, as I think they're going to ride the hot hand and Swayman if they do end up putting them in net, and I think they'll take it.
Okay. James, what do you think?
I think if they will stop letting Brad Marchand get under their skin, I think Toronto pulls this one off in overtime tonight. I think they tie the series.
I like it. Okay. All righty. Let me get this up here, and we're going to move on to any final thoughts. We're good to go. Move on to the next.
Give me the next series, and then I unfortunately have to bounce.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
This one here has been just an absolute. I don't know if we should say it's been an absolute shock. But the Vegas Golden Knights have a 2-0 lead over the Dallas Stars right now. Is anybody here surprised that this is happening?
Slightly, not incredibly, but slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, what do you think? What do you guys thoughts on this one?
This series, it is and it isn't a surprise. I mean, you knew Vegas was going to be loaded whenever it came to this series. The part that surprises me is, I guess, the wall that Dallas has kind of hit a little bit because they haven't been playing to the way that they had during the regular season. It seems like they have struggled a lot in this first series, and they don't look like the Dallas Stars of the regular season, I guess is a good way of putting it, because falling 4-3 in the first game and then 3-1 in the second game, I would figure especially with the players that Dallas has, I would have thought that they would have been scoring a hell of a lot more goals than just the 4 that they've scored in this series.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a surprise in that regard, not a surprise that the Vegas is doing what they're doing.
Yeah. So you're looking at the Vegas Golden Knights are the 67% playoff power play. Good God. Power play percentage right now. Jerry, how important has that been for the Vegas Golden Knights on their 2-road journey to be 2-0?
In terms of the power play, just in terms of general?
Just in terms, how important is that? Is the 67% power play percentage?
Very. Right? I mean, you've seen it now.
Right.
I think across the league at this point, where I feel like power play numbers are kind of down. I've been seeing numbers in like the 20 percentile, give or take, about success rates, and the fact that this team is just taking every single opportunity they can against a number 1 seed in the West shows you that, like, you need to kind of carpe diem when it comes to this stuff. When opportunities arise, if you don't take advantage of them, this is going to be your best. And also, like, again, I think that if Vegas played the entire season healthy, we wouldn't be having the LTIR conversation that we are having here that needs to be addressed, obviously, as the elephant in the room. But also at the same time, like, this could have been, the roles. I don't want to knock Dallas down too many marks here, but I feel like the roles could have very easily been reversed, where Vegas could have been the 1 seed and Dallas it could have been the same series, just with the whole different, just restructured. And they're just that good of a team. It's kind of BS if they exploit the way they do it. But also, if you look back on the history of the league here, like, Tampa did it when they won their first 2. When Stamkos was out for the entire. Stamkos played, I think, a total of 16 games in 3 years, and they were all in the playoffs. Because he was LTIR'd, and like, it's such a flawed system that I think the league does need to address and kind of figure out, because stuff like this does happen, and more often than not, it happens at a very successful rate. But I don't know. I'm shocked, but also at the same time, I'm not shocked how this is working out, because every year there's a big dog that falls early. Every year. Last year it was the Bruins. The year before that, or a couple years before that, it was the Lightning against the Blue Jackets. This happens. This is the NHL playoffs at its finest, because you just never know what's going to happen.
You actually had 2 last year. You had Colorado and Boston.
Oh, I didn't realize Colorado got bounced in the first.
Yeah, by Seattle.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah.
So looking at Ottinger right now, not having such a great series. Let me pull up his. Oh gosh, dang it, I lost it. Hold on.
He's at
I have it right at 3.1, 0 goals against average, and then there's a 0.850. James, how important is it for the Stars to get Ottinger back to the way he was playing during the regular season?
I mean, that's the thing. This team is not. They don't have the dominance they don't have the dominant scorers like Vegas does or Colorado. They rely on a very structured all team in game. They're better players, have gotten older. They're still good, but they don't have that. So their reliance is on defense and goaltending to hold the fort while the offense chucks in the goals where needed. But and unfortunately they're the victims of bad playoff setup, really. because they've been a good team all year, and they get rewarded with the former Stanley Cup champions, who is really truly a dominant team. They just fell because of injuries. They didn't do as well. They kind of faltered, but that's just what they're going through. They're going through a real bad situation with a very good team. And it's up to really Ottinger's going to have to find himself here. Because they don't have a 1B. They have Ottinger, and then that's what they can rely on. So
Scott Wedgwood is the backup.
Yeah, that's not that guy does not scream Stanley Cup dude whatsoever. Ottinger's going to have to find his game, but also the defense is going to have to come up and be better in front of that net and to get rid of those high danger shot chances that Vegas is so good with anyway. They have to clear that out and just give him a fighting chance.
Yeah. Brandon, what's your thoughts on this Golden Knights Stars series so far?
I mean, like I said a little bit ago, it's a surprise, not a surprise at how the series has gone so far. Now, if Dallas is able to get something back going again, and Ottinger is able to come back into the way that he's used to playing, this series could possibly turn on its head. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with that because, like we said before, Vegas is a very dominant team. They could just take this series and pretty much run. But if Ottinger and the defense of the Stars can get back into the series, I feel like they could turn it around for themselves.
Right. Any chance this ends in a sweep, Brandon? I don't think so, but
I'm at like a 60-40 of it not going to a sweep.
Yeah, you got to give the Stars a little bit of credit.
Yeah. I think the Stars will at least get one in Vegas, and then they'll bring it back home. If they can bring it back home and get 2 or 3 and 5 in Game 5 and possibly Game 7 at home, I think there's a possibility that we could see this kind of flip.
They need to win 3 though. Yeah. If the Knights get Game 3 in pocket going into the T-Mobile Arena for that 4th game with a sweep on the line, that's going to be a hard building to play in.
It is.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a dragon involved in the pregame ceremonies.
Really?
So,
that's interesting.
Be interesting to watch that one.
I got to see them in person, and let me tell you, they live up to the hype. I went to a game; they played the Wings. It was something.
Yeah, I'm eventually some point in time make it out to Vegas for a game. Just not for the game. I don't want to say not for the game itself because the game I'm sure will be great.
No, you're going to Vegas, and it's something
for
to
the
do.
Pregame activities that they do.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun time. You guys got any final thoughts on today's games or last night's games before we head out?
No, I'm ready for another great day of hockey.
Me too.
Everything has been wonderful so far. And then we'll see what happens. We got 2 possible series enders today, and the first 2 games of the day. So we'll see how that gets going. And then at night, I'm kind of rooting for the Stars here. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's hard to not root for the Stars right now.
Absolutely.
We'll see if the Stars align tonight.
That makes me sick in my stomach to say, but I am pulling for the Stars. Like I can do that. So
well, that's the case. We'll wrap things up today. Thanks for tuning in for this quick little playoff preview or playoff just talk right here on the 5-hole. Make sure you like, subscribe. Jerry, James, Brandon, thanks for jumping on real quick for today's shows, and we will we'll see you again on Monday night.
Sounds good.
See you.
Bye.